Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
I think that there are two kind of paces that Western Europe, the more mature markets in Western Europe, are developing at a somewhat slower pace. They're more mature with more sometimes higher ADRs, higher occupancies, but the growth rates are lower. Especially when you look at UK, for example, this year the growth rates in RevPAR have decreased. But if you look at Central Eastern Europe, we are starting from a lower level with regard to ADR. Sometimes occupancy levels are actually already quite high and comparable. But with regard to ADR and hence also RevPAR, we are in most of the Central Eastern European markets at a lower level than compared with some more mature markets in Western Europe. But the growth rates are significantly higher. And that's why sometimes these markets, Central Eastern European markets, are called emerging markets, because there's more activity. Because there's a lack of quality supply in some markets, in some cities. And I mean, if you go more into detail, one would also need to assess that Central Eastern Europe is a very heterogeneous market. So you have anything from Montenegro, Albania, to Poland, which are not really comparable, but there is a lack of quality supply, professionalism, and that's why from supply side there is lots of activity and lots of potential, and hence also with growing guest numbers, with growing demand and growing occupancy levels. And we've seen that Central Eastern Europe grew by 12.7% in RevPAR year-to-date April compared to this year compared to Western Europe. And Poland in particular grew by 12.8%, for example. So there is much more activity and dynamic in the development here. So for the time being, I still think that there are two different speeds or two different paces. But sooner or later, and that's a big question mark, you can look at a crystal ball, but sooner or later they will be similar, but I think that will still take some time. I think for the luxury market there is there is a very selective opportunity. I mean, in every capital city or in every bigger city, there could be demand for that, but to really have to achieve the ADR, the room rates that are achieved probably in Paris, Amsterdam, Berlin is much lower, for example, compared to Paris, but it's still higher than what we see in Central Eastern European markets. So I think the biggest opportunity is rather in the budget to, let's say, upscale market, and more in the quality product, professional services, and affordable services. Because if we look at markets like Poland, there is still a very high number and a high share of domestic travelers, and those have to be catered to, and not the I don't know, international travelers from Dubai who are willing to pay €1,000 because there are not that many. I mean, the Spotlight Hotel Investment Conference here for Poland and CE is the event to attend if you're active in hotel investment and hotel real estate in Poland. But I think it was also very interesting for me, and that's why it was important to come here, that it's not only looking at Poland, which is the biggest market and probably the most dynamic market at the moment, but also to see what's happening in Central Eastern Europe. And some of the panels with very high-profile speakers, it was very interesting to get their view of the individual markets. And so far, all my expectations have been fulfilled. So I'll certainly be coming next year again.
Audio Jungle.